Welcome back to the Stuff Whatever podcast. Your host B Quan Chi here. Before we get started, I always like to say the best way to support me and the channel is to like, comment, and subscribe. Whether that be here on YouTube, you can follow on Twitter for updates and other fun tweets, and follow on Twitch to catch live stream of gaming. And those gaming streams are uploaded as VODs on a YouTube channel as well. So full circle. Pretty much all those links are in the description of either about the channel, description of the video, whatever, but be quantity across the board. And we have a very special podcast today. And I hope everyone's having a good day. I'm having a good day. Like I said before in the podcast, I record these on my days off, and it's like our first day off out of 3, because I work a 4-day work week with whatever job. Pretty good. Just done some errands. And I complained about it last podcast too, but it was shopping at Walmart, but this time I decided to go to a different Walmart. And it seemed a lot better, like better stocked. And it's like like I said, Walmart is like one of the stores that like everyone shops at, but no one wants to admit they shop at because it's Walmart, and it's like I don't know. It's like a good test of patience and make sure it's like that meme or something like having road rage when you're behind a shopping cart, but not too bad. Oddly enough, they didn't have any cream cheese at all because I shop around. I don't know if this has become more of a boring adult kind of thing, but I get the ads and like the deals at different grocery stores and stuff like that. And one grocery store had a really good deal on bagels. Like, I'll do that, and then I'll get cream cheese at Walmart. And like Walmart had like, at least the one I went to had like no cream cheese. Like, but pretty much got all my shopping done. The weirdest thing, I'm not sure if this is like a thing with those cup of noodles or whatever, or cup noodles. For some reason, I have not been seeing them. I haven't like diligently shopped around. It feels like at least the two WalMarts I gone to, like they really stock up. Like I believe it's the same company, but I like this stir fry stuff, and they also had like ones in the packets that you kind of have to cook on the stove or whatever. But I kind of like the classic cups. Maybe it's a nostalgic thing as a kid, like, and it kind of like how it's a little bit more brothier and just noodles. Like, hey, we just want that in a sandwich or something like that. The old school cup noodles, like I haven't been seeing them lately. And one thing I forgot to mention about last week's podcast, not that I'm a huge like sports person or anything like that, there was the Super Bowl, and not really too much to say. God, I forgot it. Was it the Rams and the God? I can't even remember. I guess I could have an audience to kind of get on my case, even though if I feel like if I did have one, it would care too much about sports. But I'm going to talk about the Super Bowl ad for the Uber Eats, because I guess Uber Eats is also being more like Postmates or something where they actually like deliver items and stuff like that. Like if you need something from the store, you can use Uber Eats to get it versus just like food from a restaurant. The commercials like dumb as shit because it's like a bunch of celebrities and stuff like that getting items and like don't know what to do. Like they think they have to eat it. Like I think Trevor Noah from the Daily Show eats a light bulb or something like that. Or of course it's like a commercial and it's like fake stuff, so it's not like he's literally eating a light bulb. But it's like these celebrities aren't. Anyone shouldn't be that stupid not to know what to do, especially if they order the item willingly. But I made a joke that have Gwyneth Paltrow eat that candle, the candle she made that smells like her vagina, which I don't know what the deal with that in the first place is. But it's like she's eating her candle. And my joke that like, oh, Gwyneth Paltrow is literally eating her vagina. But also I was like thinking afterwards, like, because that's from like a Goop store or whatever you want to call it. And I think they have pop-ups now that I think about it. Because like, is Goop products like available everywhere? Like, you can't go to Target and get like a Goop vagina candle, can you? A goopy. Okay, that sounded. As I say that loud, a goopy vagina candle does not sound like it should exist at all. But yeah, I made a joke that like she's literally eating her vagina. But then, would Uber Eats actually be able to get Goop items like that candle? And that's Gwyneth Paltrow's fucking item. She should know what it is. She should know that she's not supposed to eat it. Of course, it's supposed to be commercial funny because Uber Eats, but the eating stuff that's not supposed to be eaten. Like, okay, that's stupid, but I don't know. At least it gets the idea across and maybe get people talking about it how Uber can do more than just deliver food. So I guess there's that. And sadly, that's like the most memorable Super Bowl commercial I can think of. I've really gone down a hill. Like I feel like we used to have really good Super Bowl commercials in the past. was it last year with the planters, the baby nut, and that's they kill off Mrs. Peanut, and now they have a baby, and they're like calling baby nut, and like, don't say baby nut. That shouldn't be two words we should hear often. Is baby nut. I also want to talk about a little bit. I've been trying to broaden my horizon in terms of content I listen to, in terms of podcasts. I'm trying to think if I mentioned this before in the past, but I do. Well, I mentioned that I do a big fan of Super Mega, and I always listen to Super Mega Cast. But it's like one of those things I feel like podcasts are like, oh, that's like a big chunk of your time, and I realize like most of my free time I'm like wasting it anyways, like playing video game. Well, not saying wasteful anyways, but sometimes I like listen to stuff like compilations and stuff like that, and it's like sometimes I'll just have like TV on for background noise. Like, you know what? Why not? We'll just listen to new podcasts, or at least new to me. And I did listen to quite a bit of I forget who's behind it. I think it's like Vsauce 2 or those people, but the Great Unknown. Just because I think just because the YouTube algorithm would keep on feeding me, like, hey, they're talking about Smiling Friends, because they had both the creators, Zach Hadel and Mike Cusack, and actually had Psychic Pebbles on quite a few times too. Like, I was kind of like backlogging, so I've been kind of more focusing on those podcasts, and I really dig the format. It's kind of like, I don't know what we would call it, just like any other podcast. So I feel like it's kind of like a interview kind of thing when it comes to different online content creators. So I've been kind of like following that, and I don't know what I like more, Spotify or YouTube, because I'm on a plan with a friend and I have YouTube Premium, so I don't get ads and stuff like that. So I feel like that's a good thing as well. Is for podcasts to have like a YouTube format as well, just to get it out there. For me, I haven't even bothered with Spotify just because I think this podcast really isn't really much. It's just me speaking to the void with no one speaking back. But since my YouTube channel has at least some traction, I have no idea what works or what doesn't work. But with the YouTube partner, like, hey, might as well just focus on YouTube. And I don't know what would happen down the road if the podcast ever becomes something more or anything like that. Like, I could always, in a sense, get the audio and do like old podcasts and archive them and upload them to Spotify. But I don't know. I don't know. It just feels like more effort, but it could be something. We could be like planting the seed, see if it grows. But I know what the deal with Spotify. It just feels like I don't have that drive to jump into Spotify. But also, I've been kind of looking into other podcasts. I've been diving into the Cream Crew just because I really like Meat Canyon. And I also have his side channel on YouTube, Papa Meat. Kind of like, just besides his cartoons, like him, his opinions, and stuff like that. Like, a lot of times on his side channel, like, he did a good, like, end of the year video, like, ranking his cartoons and kind of get more kind of like his thought process and stuff like that. But listening to the podcast. Okay, I'm gonna look this up because I haven't had the other channel, but I think they're pretty big too. Cream, Flash Kids. Okay, that's it. So it has like the two people from Flash Kids, Gits, and Hunter or Meat Canyon. And yeah, I really like it. I kind of like the humor a lot. And I kind of realized like how my podcast is pretty lame. Like, it just me again speaking to the void and being alone. So I kind of wish I had that more chemistry. I'm not sure how many people do like a solo podcast. The one I can think of offhand, just because it gets recommended to me, is that one like History of Christian one. So I don't know. I'm not sure even how I would work that out, but I just like want to think like I'm open to the idea, but I don't know if that would give the podcast more traction to have like a chemistry versus just being little me. But I don't know. We can talk about stuff, whatever. I feel like that's like my main thing is like at least I have it out there, so I have the name of the podcast out there. So if someone tries to copy it or something, because hey, I don't even know how that works. It's just like I have this content existing and all that, but who knows? I don't know. It just kind of makes me feel a little. I don't know, maybe get a little inspiration too, like listening to people kind of like, oh, how they talk about stuff like storytelling and whatever, and shooting shit or whatever. Yeah, I wish this podcast could be more, but sometimes it's just been fun just being, again, little me. And let's see, another one I haven't even listened to yet, but the Gus and Eddie, just because I like Eddie Burbach's channel and all that. So I got to listen to that podcast too. Let me just for shits and giggles, I'm going to pull up Spotify and see what they recommend because there's a few out there, but I don't know because that's like the one thing when it comes to podcasts. Maybe just because it feels intimidating because a lot of times it's like a large chunk of your time for an episode in comparison to like a TV show episode or whatever. I like always binge a bunch of crap too. Um, but it feels like a weird commitment. But let me see. I did listen to it on YouTube, but they have Sleepy Cannon. Like someone re-uploaded that on Spotify, like for nonprofit or anything like that. I'm curious about the Dunk Tank with video game dunking. Cold Ones, where I heard about because I know they did stuff with Super Mega. Late Night with Brian Recht, because I just know Brian Recht from Ninja Sex Party. Maybe I should. There's one called the Snark Tank, which I have no idea what that is. The Fitchel Podcast, I'm not sure what that is. Chuckle Sandwich, I've seen that, but not sure if that's worth it. If anyone in the comment, like, just let me know, like, hey, how are these podcasts? There's Lunch Club, which I never heard of. I think that's it. And also, what's the one from Adult Swim, like the last podcast on the left? I wonder if that was anything, because I've seen, like, a commercial on Adult Swim about it. Not sure if that's worth it, but let me see if I can get any more recommended. It's the Gus and Eddie podcast I haven't even checked out yet. Yeah, I think it just kind of helps just to get some like inspiration or a sense of, hey, people talk about this. Oh yeah, it just put the last podcast on the left. Uh, yeah, because it shows you might like. I'm not sure what the Always Sunny podcast is. Is that? Okay, yeah, it has Charlie Dace. I think that's the some people from. And I'm trying to think. What's the one? Because I sometimes get like the little commercials when I'm listening to Spotify. Like the podcast where they give like one true story and two fake ones. Face Jam, Rooster Teeth. I heard Rooster Teeth. I'm not sure if that's worth listening to, but pretty much saying, hey, if I'm gonna waste my time being dumb, then might as well listen to some podcasts that people more successful than me. Because why not? And one thing I wanted to talk about this podcast is about nihilism. And I don't know, it's like what I'm. To be honest, I'm going to be pretty much speaking out of my ass and stuff like that. But a lot of times when it's hear about like people being nihilist or nihilistic, it's like, oh, nothing else matters or nothing matters. Like, why do you bother? Because nothing matters and stuff like that. But I think there's a lot of things to gain from it in a sense that maybe comfort and stuff like that. Like, in a sense that hey, what you do don't really matter. So if you don't become like next president or next CEO of a company or most subscribed channel on YouTube. By the way, there's a subscribe button if you want to click on that. But yeah, it just kind of feels like, I don't know, just like how life is a balance. And you have the good, you have the bad, you have the facts of life, whatever. I quote the theme song, but yeah, you take the good, you take the bad. No, I don't want to like, when you think about something that's like going to bug you so much, you take the good, you take the bad, you take them both, and there you have the facts of life. Okay, I was pretty close. But yeah, I just think like having that balance, like, hey, because I think like sometimes people can get in that mindset, like, hey, this has to succeed. Like, if I make art, I want it to succeed. If it doesn't succeed, then I'm failed, and I feel bad now. They're kind of like setting up those high hopes, and it's good to be hopeful. It's good to have those aspirations and stuff like that. But then it's like one of the things like when you reach for the stars and don't quite reach them and you just like crash down to earth. I think that's like a mindset I keep in mind as well, because who knows if anything would happen with its channel, if anything will build on it. But I think it's really good to like have that balance, like reach for the stars but stay grounded. Because I was thinking like, I think that's why a lot of things appeal about nihilism is that don't Again, I'm talking to my ass, but like, don't sweat it. Like, if you're not the next biggest thing and next biggest success, like, and I was actually gonna like Google stuff or like, oh, I would read Wikipedia, listen to YouTube videos, and I feel like there's a lot of stuff about it. So I'm like, this is making my head spin. I'm not gonna try to be an expert in a few hours or whatever. So, but if anyone has a good recommendation for like topics, maybe even a book too, I would be willing to pick up a book or a really good like YouTube video documentary talking about nihilism. Because that's the one thing about nihilism is that maybe just having like that simple thinking of it is like, oh, it just means nothing matters, so why bother, kind of thing. But I find like maybe few people would like something matters in one way or another. Like I think if something like truly nihilistic, like why would you bother to make income, have a job? Why would you bother to buy things? Why would you bother to take care of yourself and all that? Like, I wonder if there's even people out there who like try to be more purist or anything. Oh, again, I'm speaking to my ass, but like saying, hey, instead of eating different foods or there's like drink like a protein shake for every meal, like something that gives you your vitamin requirements, but like, oh, why eat fast food if it doesn't matter? Why eat healthy? Why eat delicious? Why eat decadence? Why eat candy or sweets or anything like that? Like, why bother if it doesn't matter? Just consume what you need to survive. In a sense, yeah. And then, you know, people still fulfill the desires, even if they feel like nothing what they do really matters. You know, there's still some motivation and all that. I think I saw a term like cosmic nihilism, where like nothing, what you like, pretty much it's a small speck in the whole universe, and nothing you really do have an impact. And I think just kind of have that comfort because I'm not sure if it's like maybe as generations go on from your boomers to your Gen X to your millennials to your Zoomers or whatever you want to call it, like I think that before like there was a really big need to like, oh, I want people to remember my name. I want to invent something that would make an impact on mankind, and a lot of times it just doesn't matter. But then again, you know, there's some big inventions and stuff like that too that really push mankind. And it's one of the things that if you're not the person that invented it, it's probably going to the next person to invent it. And I don't know, it feels like what you do doesn't quite matter, but you should still be motivated. You know, make the best out of life. Let me look this up. This is one of my favorite quotes because I hear people talk about nihilism. They talk about like BoJack Horseman and Rick and Morty. A lot of times, you know, you look at these characters, and even though like what they do feel like they don't matter, and it kind of depends on the episode too. But they still have these selfish desires to do things that benefit them and all that. So it's like to be nihilistic. It's that I don't know. Like I don't think there ever exists like a true nihilist who like doesn't do anything that matters and all that. But let me look at my favorite quote from BoJack Horseman. Yeah, because funny because it's from the character Mr. Peanut Butter, which seems to kind of be a very positive character on the show, kind of like counterbalances like other characters. Um, but saying the key of being happy isn't a search for meaning; it's to keep yourself busy with unimportant nonsense, and eventually you'll be dead. I think that's the one thing like people question like meaning of life, like life has to have a meaning, and I think that's like nihilistic approach to like, hey, life doesn't have a meaning at all. Like, and it's really like, hey, life is what you make of it. But I think just having kind of a positive attitude as well helps because I don't know, like if nihilism means like, hey, don't be positive, don't be negative, just be in the middle. But I think for the most part, you know, just have that kind of positive mentality. Like, for example, you know, I have hopes of you know making better income, you know, paying off debts and stuff like that, living more comfortable. Doesn't mean I'll be the richest person. I'm far from it, but yeah, I still have that hope that you know things will be more successful, more comfortable. Not just and just say you know I do have my levels of comfort or what I've achieved so far in life. So it's not like I'm living paycheck to paycheck or really sacrificing stuff just to pay rent. And also, carrying that thought mind over to like relationships, like even like to the point of like marriage or having a long time romantic committed partner and all that. And honestly, that would be something I would like to have. A commitment, have you know something more serious, like have more of a life partner. But if that never happens, you know, I've been finding like okay, I can be okay with that. And that like, hey, I won't find a significant other this week, this month, maybe not even this year. But if it happens, I'll be happy with it. But if it doesn't, that doesn't take away from my life. That doesn't take away from my happiness in a sense. I think just having a balance, like, hey, these things may be a big deal, but they really don't matter. I feel like that was a thing too. Like, it was like these, I don't know if it's like an older, like parental or just like previous generation thing. Like, oh, you have to get married, you have to have kids, and all that, and you have to have, you know, a big job and a house with the white picket fence. And it kind of feels like, hey, I don't have that. So does that mean I failed at life or I'm less of a person or anything like that? So I think that's why just having this idea, like, hey, that really doesn't matter. Like, is it really worth being upset about? And what I also want to kind of talk about with nihilism is, again, I didn't want to like read up or like kind of rush like looking at nihilism, but how they deal with like death and grief and all that. Because actually, what kind of inspired this was it's like last week or so, like a radio station morning show I kind of listen to sometimes. We're talking about how like one of the um, mother passed away unfortunately on Valentine's Day, and kind of talk about like dealing with grief. It kind of struck. It is kind of like hooked on work because the talk about like nihilism, being nihilist in a sense. Yeah, when losing a loved one it really sucks, but I kind of find myself like when it comes to death, like to me, it just I feel like I don't know if I feel bad because I don't feel bad. Like in a sense, like I don't feel as sad as I feel like others think that you should be, or like when reacting to death of someone close to you, I don't feel as sad. Like of course I get sad. Of course I missed them. And it kind of depends on the situation too. But I just feel like I don't grieve. I don't cry. I don't know, it just kind of depends person, but and people need that time, like especially with like mental health or your whole sake of your own mind, like have that time to yourself to process the loss, to grieve, and a little background is like I haven't had much like tragic in terms of losing a loved one. Like, I had my grandmother who passed away when I was in high school, and my great aunt too, which was actually her sister, but it was like I'm not sure when, but I knew it was after I moved out, moved to a different state, so I felt kind of sad that I wasn't able to see her much in my adult life and all that, and kind of think the missing like oh she was the one that like really would cook, like the Sicilian part of my family and stuff like that, and I think with her uh, attitude or whatever, like her hospitality, I really showed that like a big meatloaf that she'd make or meatballs or that kind of Italian stuff too. My grandma, on the other hand, would eat a lot of Burger King and all that, and honestly, like it kind of felt like I was her favorite in a sense. Maybe because I had some medical stuff when I was like a baby, like after born in the hospital and had some issues, which aren't really worth talking to right now. But when I say like Burger King, like she was still like very thin and stuff like that, so it's not like she was like overweight or really like obese or anything like that. Um, but I don't know. It kind of felt like because I know in kind of the last years of her life, we moved her into our home and all that. And I don't know if we intervened sooner or got into home, maybe that would have changed things. But I don't think it was like that bad. Like she never smoked. She really against smoking. I even carried to my mother, who was like, "Don't smoke." But also, I kind of have like memories of like going to Burger King with her. She had candy. Like she would candy chocolates in her fridge, like this the chocolate bars. Like she really liked the symphony ones. I don't know if they still make those, but also Uno, which I don't know if they still make either. But I think Uno is very similar to Three Musketeers, and also Kit Kat. So I mean, we're like getting candy from her freezer and stuff like that, and Hot Pockets. That was another thing. She really liked her Hot Pockets too. So, but usually she got the lean cuisine, and I'm not sure they still make a bunch of this variety versus just a pizza one, but like ones like broccoli and chicken or ham or whatever. But yeah, and it's like one of those things. Like I guess what I kind of get to my point back to nihilism is that like, hey, people die, people get old, and they die, and getting upset, or dwelling over it, like being depressed or whatever, doesn't really make a difference in the sense that, hey, they're still going to be gone no matter how you feel. But of course, it's healthy to process it. It's if sadness and grief is what you feel, process those feelings. But it's like, to me, like, that's happened, so you can only move forward from there. You can't really dwell on that. And it's nice to think of like memories, like for just the past minute or so, I was talking about memories of food and stuff like that I associate with my great aunt and my grandma. And I think it also depends on like how they passed away. Like sometimes it can be very tragic, or like an accident, or someone taken too early in life. But even then, I kind of have that process like, hey, that happened, so it's not like it can unhappen. Like how you feel can't change it, because I guess also another really close person who unfortunately passed away was a close friend. He had some issues with cancer. He was kind of beating it, and then it came back, and just really fell for the worse. And there's been days that, or at least I don't want to say days, like just like sometimes I'll just have that thought, thinking like, I just won't see that person again. Like I won't be able to talk to them about this show, or go out to drinks, or check out this restaurant and stuff like that, or show them this song or this band. So kind of like feels unfair, but it's like I said, I feel kind of weird sometimes. Like I don't feel as sad as I think I should, but everyone processes things in their own way. I just think like, hey, if things don't really matter, it seems like, hey, they're dead and that's it. I don't know. Maybe it's just easier for me to process it and deal with loss and grief, because sometimes you just have to do something for yourself or process. Because I know, like, the one thing that sucks about like grief and like going to funeral and stuff like that is like, if you work and you work paycheck to paycheck, is like, hey, I can't take this time off to go to your funeral, or I can't take this time off to like process and grieve and all that. And it's nice that a lot of employers have like paid time off, even bereavement in those kind of cases of a close loved one, but some people don't. Some employers don't. And it's like one of the things like, hey, we expect you to be at work. So if you don't show up because you're going to your funeral of your mother or father, then hey, you don't have a job. And these people are like really dependent on their income. So it's like, it just really sucks, that people can be in that situations that they can't probably grieve or console like a sibling loved ones, like if they're dealing with a parent and stuff like that. Because I feel like, knock on wood, my parents are still in good health, but if something happened, I kind of feel like, hey, I can get a time off. I can at notice get a plane ticket, rent a car if I need to, and stuff like that. And cause I don't know, I just feel like this thing that, hey, that's what you're supposed to do when people pass away, like go to the funeral, go to the wake, comfort the loved ones and stuff like that. But I think just having this nihilistic approach makes things, I guess, easier for me in a sense that, hey, nothing matters, but I still want to be on the positive side. Like, hey, nothing matters, but I still want good things to happen. Like, I still want to find love. I still want to find success. Maybe it won't be the level of success I would like, but that's not going to take away from me as a person and stuff like that. I wonder if like that's been really talked about, like not just being nihilistic, but kind of be in a positive way. Because one thing I was also kind of like gently reading about nihilism, about like not really having morals, like immoral, in a sense. Cause I couldn't find like, to me, it kind of makes sense to be a little bit more moral or do the right thing. Like for me, I don't want to like stretch myself too far or like make too much an effort to do the right thing or do something good in the world. But it kind of feels like, hey, that makes sense to be a decent human being, do good things like hold the door open or stuff like that. Because be nice, like, because it feels like the opposite just kind of adds conflict in, instead of, avoiding. I don't know if it's like just avoiding positivity, but just like, hey, you don't want to piss off a lot of people, because even if it's like inaction, like if we still piss off people, then that's going to lead to conflict and more stuff. And I don't know, like trying to think of the right words to say, like kind of like how they say like silence is violence when it comes to like talking about like racism and hate and stuff like that. Actually, now that I think of it, that's probably like a good example too. Like silence is violence, because silence would be something more of a nihilistic thing, like why say something, like why stand up for something if it doesn't really matter, but if you don't, then who will stand up or give you support. So I think being positive, doing the right thing is good. And I don't know. I'm just kind of speaking again, speaking out of my ass and all that. But I think it's good to just have that frame of mind. Like, hey, you may not be the next big success. You may not be the next big celebrity. You may not even have the family you hoping for. You may not have the wife or husband or whatever. And I don't know this because I find like very common to being content, and I feel like content is one of those words that it feels like it's in the middle, and maybe even frowned upon the sense like, hey, if you're content, you're not really driving yourself, not having that passion going forward. But being content is very good, I think, in my sense. But do I wish things were better? Of course, I always want to hope for more, maybe do more. Kind of like this. It's again, like I say, it's better to be positive, negative, and even like for example, at work, like instead of being an employee who just doesn't give a shit, like give a shit because that makes the day easier. That may lead to better things down the road, even if it doesn't really matter too much in the long end. Like you might find a new job a couple of years down the road, but it may make that day easier, make that month easier, just to do more and to be more positive. Even if you feel like, hey, I don't really matter. I'm just like a tiny, tiny, insignificant speck in the sands of time. But hey, what I can do can make a difference, at least in my life. So, I wanted in this podcast bringing back the whatever report. I'm not sure. Like, I'm looking at the time of the recordings. I'm not sure how long this podcast is. It's just kind of feel weird. Like, hey, should I worry about how long it is if I'm going on too long? But let me talk about a few stories I pulled up. So this first one for the whatever report, which didn't realize this was a thing, but I guess there were bees that were explosively ejaculating to death during heat waves. And I'm trying to think if I heard this before with bees. Like I'm trying to think like a thing like insects like go up to another animal just kind of raise the heat levels and make them die. Like, I thought that was something with bees, but it said like male bees like ejaculate until they die during heat waves. And that's kind of like a weird picture. It's kind of hard to really process that. Like they said something with like their fowls and stuff like that. So that's kind of what a way to go. But I guess bees can, in a sense, come to death. Never happened with me, so. But I'm not sure why this happens when the like heat, like if it is something with the body temperature is causing them to do that. But this is something that happens to bees. Okay, this is a weird, like definitely a what the fuck story for the whatever report, but basically a woman quits her job to breastfeed boyfriend full time. And that's like, what the fuck? Like, why bother? And I'm not sure what the benefits or why there's a big drive to drink breast milk beyond adult business. People's like saying, oh, drink milk, and that's like cow titty milk or whatever. But saying this happened in Atlanta, and I trying to breastfeed milk her bodybuilding boyfriend every 2 hours. It says like she had a job as a bartender and all that. I'm not sure like if she's being compensated, how that works financially for her. Because like every time I think of somebody quitting a job, like, hey, that's your income. Like, even though I don't live paycheck to paycheck, like you need your income. So I'm not sure what they're doing. But I guess it's a thing. Like they have websites, what's called adult breastfeeding relationships or ABR, and they have ABR forums and stuff like that. Like interesting, like doing it every 2 hours so she can trick her body into lactating, like with a breast pump as well. So she's taking a break from her job so she can devote everything to making this work. And what I don't know what goes in your mind, like thinking, hey, this is a good idea, especially, hey, I'm gonna make a huge change in my life and not make money, so I can breastfeed somebody. It seemed like she sought him out. It's not like a guy approached her. It seemed like she wanted to do this, and I think they even said like her old high school, a formal school boyfriend that she talked with and got this going. But yeah, adult breastfeeding relationships, I guess, apparently exist. Okay, in a story, a Boston man stabbed for not flushing toilet at a station, an MBTA station. Yeah, so I kind of glanced over a story about it, like it kind of escalated, like he didn't flush, and the I don't know. It's like one of the things like I don't know if it's like a Boston thing, but this kind of escalated. But the story did clarify that the person was taking a shit, so I think maybe that's a little justified. Like I guess if he was just taking a piss, like if it's yellow, let it mellow. But it did say that he took a shit, and I guess the clerk stabbed him after getting into an argument about realizing that he didn't flush the toilet. And next story for the whatever report is two. It's either three identified, but two people. They got caught stealing $1,000 in Yankee candles from CVS, and I'm not sure what the end game is. If they just like really like the candles, I'm not even sure how many candles that were. Because I think of the scented candles, like they're not like the cheapest, but if you're getting $1,000 worth retail, that's still a lot of fucking candles. They said they happened like I think yeah, it happened last September. I guess two of them did get caught and or they turned themselves in. That's what happened. Is that two of them turned themselves in, released on bail, and with the person that they're still looking for, they have a warrant for their arrest for the incident, and they're currently awaiting court procedures. But what fucking court proceedings? But why would he? I don't know. Steal candles, like is Endgame trying to like resell them and make a profit, or do they really like the candles or all that? But yeah, apparently people try to steal Yankee candles from CVS, so that happens, and that happened in Pennsylvania, Lancaster County. And this last bit for the whatever report, this kind of scares me a little bit. But a teenager ate leftover rice and noodles, and later doctors had to amputate their legs and fingers on that. Well, it was like a 19-year-old, so like college students, all that, eating like leftover fried rice, chicken lo mein, outwards, skin turning purple, all that, and admitted like having shock and multiple organ failures and rash. And oh my god, this just sounds so freaking scary and all that. Just looking at it, but I guess he was diagnosed with meningococcal purpura fulminans disease. It causes all like nausea, respiratory collapse, shock, organ failure, and all that. But I guess they say the condition caused by bacteria with brings like sudden fever and vomiting and all that. Oh my god! It's like when it's like when you read something online, you like scared for like the WebMD or whatever. Like when you put in any symptoms, because it's saying like they could one that lead to death within a few hours, all that. And then his condition got worse and had to amputate his legs and fingers. And like, I can't imagine having that happen to you just for eating leftovers. And also need a pacemaker for 13 days to treat his cardiac dysfunction. But it said like an article says like dangers of improperly stowing leftover rice and pasta. Like it's a bacterium called Bacillus cereus. I guess I'm not sure if I'm saying that right. But the weird thing about the article is that like their roommate also ate the leftovers but didn't have any issues at all. And I just think I have an iron stomach as well, so I'm not sure how that is. And how old? The one thing is like wondering how old the leftovers were. How were they stored? Like were they just out in the open or in the fridge or? But I can't imagine like losing your legs and fingers just for eating leftover Chinese food. But so that's why I always finish my food. No leftovers. Like eat. I go to get Panda Express or leftover Chinese get Chinese takeout. Eat it all up. But yeah, that will do it for the Stuff or Whatever podcast. So again, the best way to support is to like, comment, and subscribe. And yeah, comment below. I can always use some feedback and all that. Sometimes I talk about my ass. I talk out. I talk about my ass. I talk out of my ass. I talk out of my ass. And all that. So not sure if there's ever going to be more of a structure or anything like that, but it is what it is. And like I said, being a nihilist, like it doesn't even matter. Just like that song from Linkin Park. In the end, it doesn't even matter. So I'll take care and have a good rest of your day, unless it doesn't matter. Bye.